Welcome to On the Fly, the show that covers fly fishing here in Connecticut and surrounding areas. Today, I'm talking with Mike Beauchene, Supervising Fisheries Biologist for the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, also known as DEEP. Mike, welcome to the show and thanks for joining us.
Lee, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the offer and look forward to our next 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Would you start off by giving us an overview of DEEP's role in fisheries, and then maybe after that, some more specific information on how you and your team support those efforts?
Great. Well, within the Fisheries Division for the state of Connecticut, we have two main subcategories. We have the inland fisheries, which deals with all things freshwater, and then we're fortunate to have Long Island Sound, so we have a marine fisheries division that deals with all things saltwater. I'm on the inland fishery side of things, and within that we have several subcategories, including freshwater fish management, which encompasses our cold water and warm water fisheries. We have habitat conservation and enhancement, which helps to keep fish habitat adequate for resident fish to move up and downstream, migratory fishes. We have the diatomous program, which are fish that come from saltwater into freshwater to spawn, and then go back to the sea sometimes. And lastly, we have the program that I oversee, which is our education and outreach, where we teach people how to fish. So we have quite a diverse portfolio of things that the Fisheries Division does, other than just simply stock trout.
Yeah, that's amazing. Rough and tough, how many people, would you say work in the Fisheries Division, kind of overall as a ballpark number?
Between inland and marine, we probably have around 65 positions full-time. And then we're augmented in the summer with probably equally as many, if not more, seasonal employees.
Great. So it sounds like a pretty strong effort by the state to keep this going. Before we dive into talking about Connecticut and fisheries and so forth, tell me a little bit about you and your background, and how did you wind up working at DEEP?
Yeah, sure. So as a young child, I used to watch the Jacques Cousteau shows on the black and white television, and that was going to be me. I was going to be Jacques Cousteau. I had the Beauchene French last name. I figured I had a shoe in the door, but there's only been one Jacques Cousteau, and it's hard and competitive to get into the marine biology field. I went to the University of Connecticut, where I majored in ecology and evolutionary biology, and then went on to get my master's in natural resource management. All of that was driven by growing up in Barkhamsted on a small stream, chocker block full with native wild brook trout, which piqued my interest from day one. Barkhamsted's fairly rural. There weren't a lot of friends for me in that time of the generation. So playing outside, being in that water, watching what those fish did every day, day in and day out, was kind of what made me tick and really piqued my interest. And I was fortunate also to have a very supportive family role where my grandparents were avid hunters and fishermen, and when we would be shipped off to Grandma and Grandpa's for the weekend, that's what we got to do. Wow. We would go fishing and we would go hunting, and it definitely really made a mark on me through my formative years.
Yeah, so for you, this started early in life. This wasn't a later, get to college and figure out what I want to do. You sort of knew early on this was going to be it.
This was it, yeah.
And it sounds like that family support just really contributed to that as well.
Yep.
That's wonderful. That's great. And Barkhamsted, a beautiful area as well. When it, as you mentioned, because you kind of broke it out into inland and marine, but when it comes to fishing, Connecticut really does have a lot of opportunities. We've got cold freshwater, warm freshwater, and we've got salt as well. We've got rivers, streams, ponds, lakes, the sound, all very distinct environments, and all very, have differing types of fish in there as well. Aside from breaking it out into inland and marine, when the DEEP looks at these opportunities, how do they look at it, I guess, compared to someone who's going out and I'm going to fish for trout today or bass tomorrow? How does the state look at it, and also what areas seem to be the most popular with Connecticut anglers?
Good question. We try to provide something for everyone. That's kind of the way we look at it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So we look at what Connecticut's environment has to offer to support various fisheries, and then try to match fish species to those that not only will thrive in those environments, but anglers would want to go out and pursue as well. So on the freshwater side, the two that are by far and large the most dominant is trout or bass, right? It seems like, most people, if you talk to, 8 out of 10 are either going to put themselves in one of those two groups. But we also have northern pike fisheries, walleye fisheries, channel catfish fisheries, sunfish, native sunfish in most of our small lakes and ponds, as well as occasionally we get to bring in some lake trout from the federal Fish and Wildlife Service. So we try to look at what opportunities we have and match fish species to those, as well as to what anglers are looking for. One of the ones that we constantly be asked about is tiger muskies. Can we bring tiger muskie into the state, which we have just started to do last year. We stocked 2 lakes, or 1 lake. It was, it's slipping my mind. The northeast corner is West Thompson Lake, and it has yearling tiger muskies, which are about 8 inches. So hopefully in 3 or 4 years, as they grow and mature, we may get to trophy size 40+ inch fish there.
Okay, and is it because of the fight, or why the interest? Or?
It's just one of those big, gigantic fish. Fish. I haven't really met too many fishermen that like to catch tiny fish.
Sure.
They all want to catch, the gigantic, trophy-sized fish. So those fish provide that opportunity.
Good deal. Okay. Fishing in general seems to be a pretty, popular sport in Connecticut. I would say increasingly popular sport. And I do see a fair number of people on the water, whether it be lakes or rivers or so forth. Approximately how many fishing licenses are issued each year, and are you seeing this number increase, decline, stay the same? Kind of how does it look?
Yeah, Connecticut averages over the past 10 years, we're in that 165,000, 170,000 participants, people who get a fishing license. That's different from sales, because in Connecticut we have free licenses that go out to people that are age 65 or older, which with the past few years, baby boomers have aged into that, and the number of free fishing licenses we've given out is north of 30,000.
That's a good percent. That's a pretty good percentage
So,
of this total.
Yeah. So for sales, we're around 125 to 130,000 people that are paying for their license, but we have about 175,000 participants.
Yeah. And on the longer term, how does that compare to historical average? Are we up? Are we down?
We're down about 25% from 30% from historic highs, which were the late 80s, early 90s, around 225,000 people getting a fishing license. Yeah. So we are down a bit. So there's lots of reasons and hypotheses as to why, but one of our efforts that I lead on our group is called retention, reactivation, and recruitment, are 3, so that we try to continually bring in new people to the sport who are those that are aging out or leaving or moving out of the state. We want to bring in new people behind, try to instill fishing as an activity of choice for families and youth is a big part of that as well.
Great. And I know we'll talk about the programs in a minute. Are you seeing any other trends within the numbers? I know you said the baby boomers, so you're doing more free licenses per se. As far as the composition of people who are coming to get licenses, are there any trends or any differences in what you're seeing compared to maybe, to your point, how it may have been 10 years ago or sometime in the past?
Slightly more women, per se, have been moving into the sport than, say, 20, 30 years ago. It is honestly typically dominated by white males who buying our fishing licenses. We're trying to diversify, again, by providing diverse opportunities. One of our programs, Community Fishing Waters, is focused on urban communities, high populated areas, and trying to get people who live close by to, instead of having to drive a half an hour out to Barkhamsted, to be able to fish right in their own municipal park that they can walk to right across the street from their apartment, say. And that, I believe, has helped to try to bring in additional people to the sport, but again, is diversifying the overall makeup of who is fishing.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So there's an outreach, if you will, to bring in some of the more non-traditional fisher
Exactly.
opportunities. Great. I know one of the other things that I see, because we've talked about fishing the Farmington, is I see a fair number of out-of-state plates, and I know we've talked about that before. Are out-of-state or out-of-state visitors, is that a significant part of the licenses that are issued? And I'll ask the same question. If so, are you also seeing that go up, down, stay the same, and so forth?
Yeah, trends again are fairly similar, maybe a slight upward trend. We issue between 3,500 to 4,500 licenses to non-residents, so people outside of Connecticut, annually. It's not a big chunk of our total 130,000 by any means. It's a very small percentage. I think in the case of the Farmington, it's a world-renowned fishery, and it draws out of people from all over, not even just out of state, but even out of country
absolutely.
sometimes. Whereas some of these other less touted streams, like maybe our Salmon River or the Naugatuck River, may not get as much out-of-state attention as the Farmington and even sometimes the Housatonic does get.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I see a fair number of out-of-state plates here as well. Let's talk a little bit about your programs. I know that you have several outreach and angler programs. Can you tell me a little bit about some of them? I know there's probably more than we can cover in a half an hour, but maybe give me the highlights on some of these, and including the Learn to Fish program.
Sure. Our number one outreach effort for the Fisheries Division is what's called the CARE program, which stands for Connecticut Aquatic Resource Education. And that's the program that I supervise and oversee. I have 2 staff that are within that and 8 seasonal staff. And primarily what we do is try to support people who have never fished or haven't fished in a long time to get them introduced to the sport. Very basic, bobber, worm, hook, push button casting, but start with simple basics, get them to catch a fish at one of our events. The studies show that a person who fishes for the first time and catches a fish is 99% more likely to go back and fish again than someone who gets skunked on their first fishing trip and says, oh, what's the big deal about fishing? This was terrible, right? So we really want to get people on a fish, even and you can see this. They can catch a 2-inch or 3-inch bluegill, and the smile is the same as the same person that we were just talking about, maybe that caught a 40-pound trophy muskie.
Right.
So the fish doesn't matter at that point. It's the success and the building the skills and the confidence to get those people to want to continue on their own and make fishing an activity of choice.
Excellent. Just rough and tough, how many of those events do you hold over a calendar year?
We call them First Catch Center events, and we put out approximately 150 statewide each summer, April through September. Yeah, that's like our flagship. We have a trailer. It's loaded up with fishing equipment. We work with local park and rec commissions. We go to some of our trout parks, our community fishing waters. We have a calendar that's on our webpage. It's put out in advance. We try to promote and advertise. It's all free to attend, other than 16 and over legally need to have a fishing license, obviously. But there's no cost to attend. We have all the equipment. We have a tremendously dedicated army of fishing coaches who are our volunteers, and I know we can mention that later in the discussion. But each group that comes out almost gets a personal guided fishing trip, in a sense, with this highly passionate, dedicated fishing coach to teach them just, again, the simple basics and get them to catch their first fish.
That's fantastic. And I know we'll talk about it in a minute, do they enroll for that type of program on your website, or is it just it's announced and they show up? How does that work?
We prefer registration, which is on the webpage right with the schedule, every date, and location has a link that says register here, register now. So you can check those, people can do that. It requires them to get a conservation ID, which is a unique identifier through our sportsman licensing system. And but we also do take walk-ins. Obviously, sometimes we're at some of these parks, and there may be people that are just there walking their dog or having a picnic, and then they see 15 or 20, 30 people fishing all of a sudden in a trailer, and it's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And we take walk-ins as well, for sure.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like a very, very popular program. Sounds like quite a lot too. Are there other programs that you'd like to talk about?
Well, on our marine side, we have what's called the MRIP. It's a Marine Recreational Intercept Program, not a really great name, but it's a federal program working through the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administrations, or NOAA. And those people go out to try to intercept or talk to anglers that are on Long Island Sound, because part of figuring out regulations, which we'll talk about again in a little bit, is figuring out how many fish are being caught and kept, to help figure out and balance sizes and lengths and seasons and stuff on the saltwater side. So that's a big outreach component. They're out there every day going to different spots. They're randomly assigned through the MRIP NOAA program to go to this charter boat or to go to this dock and talk to people for a certain amount of time. And that's a big outreach effort, again, of reaching people that may not even know really that the Fisheries Division exists.
Right, right. Yeah, it sounds like another large effort as well, but much needed. For someone who wants to check out upcoming programs and opportunities, where is the best place to go? To the site, to your website?
Yeah, the easiest way to do it would be to Google or search on Fish with Care Connecticut, and that brings you right to it, or Fish with Care Connecticut events, right to it.
Great. And I believe that we have the link to that page, the care page on the DP site. So for those of you that want to take a minute and either write that down or put it into your search, sounds like a great place filled with information on the programs that are offered. I want to talk about stocking for just a few minutes, because I think that, as you and I were discussing earlier, people tend to focus on trout and they know a little bit about it and so forth, but maybe not all the considerations and maybe not all the other types of fish you stock. So I think that, well, many of us are aware of trout stocking. From what I saw on your site, you actually stock other types of fish such as salmon, pike, catfish, muskie, and walleye. Can you give us a brief overview of the overall stocking program? And I know there's more than one hatchery, and there's some seasonality to stocking efforts, and probably some other, some other things as well that are factors that play into it.
Yeah. So in Connecticut, we have 3 fish hatcheries. Our largest is located in Plainfield. It's called the Quinnebog Valley Fish Hatchery. That hatchery is responsible for growing almost all of our trout that we stock, close to 600,000 fish each year, just in catchable size trout alone. And that's mostly like if you were to ask the person on the street, what does the Fisheries Division do? They're going to say we stock trout, and that's why we put a lot of fish out into the waters. Our other 2 hatcheries, the Burlington Fish Hatchery and the Kensington Fish Hatchery, are kind of what we call, they grow some of our specialty fish. So out of Burlington, we do our Survivor Brown Trout program, which is what makes the West Branch Farmington River so special. We will go out in the fall, collect fish that have been in the river for at least a year or that we feel are wild. Okay. We bring them back to the hatchery, we spawn them, grow their progeny, and then bring those progeny back to the river. So it's kind of trying to create a self-selecting for the fish that do best in the Farmington River, hence the name kind of Survivor.
Survivor trout, yeah. So you're taking kind of the best of the, I don't say the best of the best, but that's what you are taking, the largest.
The ones that are doing well there.
Yeah,
right?
They have the genetic predisposition to do well. Yeah, okay, great.
And Burlington also deals with our kokanee salmon program, and Connecticut is, kokanee is a landlocked version of the sockeye salmon that isn't a Pacific salmon that you see swimming up rivers through, jumping the falls, and bears trying to catch them and stuff.
Sure.
Well, we have those fish right here in Connecticut. They only get to be about 12 to 14 inches, but West Hill Pond, East Twin Lake are places where we actively manage that fishery. So it's for the people that go for that, they really enjoy them. They're a real challenge to catch, and they're really beautiful when they're in their spawning colors in October. Our Kensington hatchery grows Atlantic salmon, which is an extremely popular fishery in the Shetucket and Naugatuck rivers, a couple lakes, Crystal Lake and Mount Tom. Those fish are grown about 2,100, 2,200 fish, around 18 to 20 inches every year, just specifically for those recreational fisheries. They're not restorative, not restoration. And actually, none of our hatchery work is really to try to restore fish populations. It all is all purely for recreational effort, which is a big misconception out there. Some people think when we stock the brood stock trout that we're trying to jumpstart or sustain the population, and it's just not true. There's the habitat to support trout year-round in the majority of our rivers just isn't there. Even if they wanted to reproduce, they won't be successful. And that's our main hatcheries. To support the other fisheries you mentioned, warm water fisheries, we often purchase fish from private vendors. So our walleye and our pike we purchase from a commercial hatchery in Minnesota. They come as fingerlings, and we stock them out instead of an instant put and catch fishery, we call that a put, grow, and catch fishery. So they're put in small, they feed, they help keep the ecosystem in balance by keeping the prey fish in balance. They grow to a larger size, people can catch them. Our channel catfish come from a commercial farm in Arkansas, same type of farm that provides the catfish fillets you would see in your local supermarket, except these you can go out and catch yourself. Those are purchased as adults, about 10,000 per year come, and we primarily stock those in our community fishing waters because they can tolerate much warmer temperatures and slightly lower water quality. I would be remiss in saying that there's more than just recreational fishing. Our diadromist in our program stocks American shad, river herring, eels, and even sea lamprey to try to restart and jump those native fish runs, again, that would come from Long Island Sound up into freshwaters, spawn, and then go back out to sea, some of them. Since colonial times, with the construction of many industrial dams, those fish runs winked out or were extirpated, and our diadromist program works to restore those native fish runs back to a lot of our coastal streams.
That's great. I noticed when you were talking about something like the kokanee salmon and so forth, sounds like there's only a couple of places that they get stocked. Is there some reasoning behind it? And I'm going to guess it's something having maybe to do with flow and water quality and that type of thing, but it probably sounds better if you told us what kind of guided those decisions.
Yeah, you can't have fish without the fish's habitat, right? No matter what you want to do, if you put a fish somewhere and it's not what they like or they need, is a better way to phrase it, then they're not going to thrive and they're not going to exist. So for the kokanee salmon, the waters where they go, they need to have a really robust zooplankton, which is a little microscopic animal that feeds on phytoplankton, which is a little microscopic plant. So it starts the whole base of the food chain. And the places that over the decades have proven to sustain these fish mostly is West Hill Pond, just has just the right characteristics: deep, cold, clean, clear, lots of zooplankton, and East Twin Lake, which has a similar situation. The problem in East Twin Lake is that occasionally a competitor, the landlocked alewife, gets introduced. We don't know how. Sometimes people move fish around that they're not supposed to. Alewives are voracious predators on plankton, so they can outcompete the kokanee for their food source. And so we have this kind of cyclical: alewives will be great in East Twin Lake for a while, then for some reason they wink out, and then the kokanee thrive, and it just keeps going back and forth like this. So it's very interesting dynamics.
One area that I frequently read is our regulations, which seem to change every year. For 2026 and possibly 2027, can you give us just a quick summary of what we might see coming?
Yeah. So on the marine side, you're right. They do change every year primarily, and it's a very complex process because the fish that are being regulated don't understand state boundaries. They can be between Florida and Maine. And so there's federal agencies that work to divide up quotas, and again, very complicated, and those regulations do change yearly. On the inland side, our regulations are on about a 3-year change cycle.
Okay.
So we just changed in 2026. We don't expect new changes at least at the earliest 2028.
Okay.
Some of the changes for this year, the biggest one was that we implemented a 9-inch minimum length on all trout. We created 3 new trout parks in our state-run campgrounds, Mashmucket, Macedonia, and Kettletown. We created 22 new wild trout management areas, which are no stocking, barbless hooks, artificial only. It's really our prized wild sustaining trout populations. We created catch and release for largemouth and smallmouth bass on the Housatonic River, primarily because they're also contaminated with PCBs, so there's a do not eat anyway. And we created 3 new chain pickerel lakes to help manage a native apex predator. Unlike the tiger muskie, chain pickerel are our native apex predator and can grow very large, and some people really like to chase native fish.
Okay, good deal. And for those of you who are interested in staying up on the regs as I am, I believe we have a link to the regulations page as well on the DEEP website. Also, for those of you that have heard about the volunteer opportunities tonight, I believe that DEEP has some volunteer opportunities. If someone is interested in volunteering, what's the best way for them to get in touch? Is it to reach out to you?
That's a good way to do it. You email me, no problem. But we also have a DEEP Fisheries volunteer webpage. Again, you could Google that, but again, the easiest way, reach out to me anytime if you have my contact information, email. My email's open 24/7, 365. I just only check it when I'm working.
Gotcha. And by the way, I believe that we do have Mike's contact info up on a slide here as well for our viewing audience. Mike, it is hard to believe that we have used up 30 minutes of time. I greatly appreciate everything that you've told us about tonight. Before we sign off to our audience and so forth, is there anything else that you think our viewers should know about DEEP?
2 quick things I should have brought up during licenses. There's a big myth out there that the license fees go to the general fund and they're lost. Not true. Totally wrong. Bogus. Whoever tells you that, call BS on them. The money comes to the Fisheries Division, to the Bureau of Natural Resources. It's a state law. So your license fees support fishing and fishing opportunities, 100%. The other thing is August 8th is our second of 2 free fishing license days where anyone can get a free 1-day fishing license. And we also happen to have our big saltwater fishing day. It's at Fort Trumbull State Park from 10 to 3, New London. Come on down. Again, we have all the rods, we have all the bait. You can fish off the Fort Trumbull Pier, and it's a great time.
Tremendous. Mike, thanks again for joining us. Thank you again, Mike Beauchene, for giving us an overview of Connecticut fisheries. Thanks our crew for making us look good. And thank you for watching On the Fly. Hope to see you on the water.